like this, man. He's like a butterfly flapping his wings deep down in the forest, man. It's gonna cause a tree fall like 5,000 miles away, man. There ain't nobody seeing nobody. Man, see, like, you don't even know, man. It's like you're born into this world, man. And you got like that, man. The dust and wind, man. Or like the dang old candle, man. It don't matter, man. It's like this old time.
All right, Dimes, Judas, welcome back to the show. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing well myself. How about you, Dimes?
I'm doing great. You know what's funny? You see this thing on X where someone posts a photo of just kind of like a woman, just a regular woman who maybe is like a 7 out of 10. And it's like, can I say something without people getting mad? That's what they always say. You know what I mean? Like, guys, would you? It's like we're just showing attractive women like, guess what? Don't get mad at me. But I think she's like, what the fuck are we doing? Why does saying that you like a pair of big titties and that needs to be, this is the hill I'm going to die on.
Well, it's like the classic 4chan response, lust provoking image, irrelevant thread, right? Which is like, you're just doing this to waste time, right? This is not why we're here.
I just want to post like a delicious apple pie. Like, honestly, if we drop the act, let's be real for a second. Can we say something without anyone getting mad? I'd have a slice of that apple pie. That's a nice looking pie on the windowsill.
Well, see, that's one strategy for engagement farming. The other one is to find something that generally all of your friends like and just say how much you hate it. Just do that.
You're good at this. You're one of the greats. And I actually don't want to do this because I don't want to fog your strategy of just saying that very few people actually just troll on Twitter. I just kind of threaten people, but you're the one like making posts that just is contrarian, and then people, they know it's to rile them up, but they get riled up anyway, and it just works.
Isn't that why you still do Movie Corner after like a year of everybody telling you to shut up?
No, I see. I'm troll shielding. I'm acting like I'm fucking with people, but I really just like film. And I want to talk about it.
Fair. All right,
you're couching your genuine passion project as a way to antagonize your viewers.
It's like, hey, you want to talk about this fucking gay shit I got? And I got 7 pages of notes about the Bike Riders starring Tom Hardy. Speaking of which, no, I'm not going to do that now.
Hey, go ahead. Why not?
No, actually, I had to save that for us. We have content that we got to get to.
All right.
I need. We took a week off, and I've just got so much news that we need to discuss. I don't know my opinion on any of it. Anything with Trump, it's like, did you hear about this thing? I'm like, yeah.
Well, this is why one of my favorite things is to go back to the kind of like retarded news stories of 4 to 5 years ago, right? Like not the big ones, but like the really minor things that aren't important anymore. Like, do you remember when Trump was in Japan and he fed those fish wrong, and every libtard got so mad at him for feeding fish incorrectly? Like stuff like that, where it's like, it gives you perspective that like literally none of this matters, right?
And then if Tim Walz did that, everyone would be like, "He's just like my retarded dad." Oh.
I've got a theory here. Let me know what you guys think. Tim Walz is a minstrel show for white people.
Yeah, I think that's been explicitly said. I think when people say, he reminds me of my goofy dad, like that's what you hear people say. Do you remember early on, and they did this for like 2 days, they were trying to make Tim Walz into a sex symbol. I saw it happen. They'll deny that this happened, but they were trying to be like, yeah, he's actually like the type of white man that would like fuck your brains out secretly.
Yeah. Well, it was like there's this post, and I won't read it out exactly, which is like basically saying like JD Vance looks like the kind of guy who has boring bad sex with you, but Tim Walz will make you explode. Again, I'm trying to censor it to keep it roughly PG-13.
Because the original one was pretty lurid.
Yes, yeah, I know exactly what you're referring to. It was a bit over the top.
At every tweet, everything I see, any post, I'm like, is this trying to get me? Is this trying to be stupid on purpose? Because that's the most ludicrous thing I've seen. But just imagining someone being like, yeah, maybe he'd fuck my brains out. Like, really? And he's just there with his mouth always open. His face looks like a fucking mask.
Well, I'll put it this way. I think Tim Walz would be much more interested in you, Dimes, than any one of those progressive women on the internet.
Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to interpret that as you saying I'm a handsome guy and not that I'm gay, which is what some people might be interpreting that as uncharitably.
No. I was implying nothing about you. I was implying something about Tim Walz.
I know there's some of these fucking jackals we got in the comment section. I'm happy this isn't live because I would have been seeing them stacking up right now with their fucking tepid implications of that. No, he's calling me handsome. And we all stand by it. We all heard it.
Well, I mean, that's the whole reason, right, that you even have a podcast, right? It's just to have other men call you handsome who've never seen your face.
The real story is that you think everyone is either going to be a fucking jacked Chad, A10-eyed Superman, or just an obese Gollum, and then you meet them in real person, and it's just everyone is powerfully normal. Everyone is just a guy from a place.
Yeah, I'll put it this way. I think we have a flat bell curve on the right, and for every one of these kind of like jacked, BJ Blazkowicz looking Aryan Supermen, we have a couple like Al from Toy Story 2 kind of guys.
See, it's crazy to me.
That's a reference for you, for film buffs like you, Dimes.
But I was about to say, it's crazy that you're not a father, because once you become a dad, you start making those fucking references. Like, you start kind of talking about Toy Story like it's a movie that's fresh in your memory.
I don't think I've seen Toy Story 2 since probably 2005.
I know. You're going to watch it a lot. You're going to watch it a lot of times. And it's really good. That whole series is actually really good. I never saw the fourth one. I'm like, this is, you know what? They were firing on all cylinders here. You start saying weird shit when you're a dad.
I think that my favorite like bizarre subplot in I think it's Toy Story 2 again, which is the one that I've seen the most because we had it on VHS, is that like the ultimate like horrible fate for a toy is being sent to Japan. Like that's their version of going to Siberia.
What? No, because that was the whole point with I guess Kelsey Grammer was the prospector. This is now a movie corner. Sorry, Netanyahu. It's a movie corner.
No, it's about Toy Story 3.
No, Toy Story 2. It's clearly the best.
It's 2, you buffoon. It's
Sorry.
because it's got Kelsey Grammer playing the prospector. And the whole plot, he wants to be in a toy museum in Japan. And the other toys, they want to be owned by a kid because that's the destiny of a toy. But he just he's not even a villain, really. But how does he end up? Sometimes they meet very wretched fates.
I think he gets like sucked into a conveyor belt and shredded. And the baggage claim or something.
You're just merging this with like Terrifier 3.
Yeah, I'm merging this with actual mall footage from Southeast Asia.
You know what? I think it was 70 kids died at the end of that one.
Terrifier 3 or footage from a mall in China?
That's because Terrifier 3 is making all the money. There's a whole generation that's only watched this stuff. It's like, what else is on? It's just people being turned inside out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, honestly, like, and I have not seen the second Joker movie. I have no interest in doing it, but I do think it's interesting that we've entered an era of revenge against the chuds, right? Where even as, I think the right wing is kind of winning culture, at least, in the digital realm. Right, the kind of like legacy apparatus that's still owned by like old bitter libtards and women is basically trying to like strike out and ruin as much as they can of those kind of like right wing memes. So like for instance, right, like the second Joker film is a great example of it. But we've also seen articles about the upcoming reboot to American Psycho, right? And it seems like a very deliberate process of like, oh, you liked this thing? Well, let me make it gay and retarded.
Yeah, because especially with Joker, and the character of Arthur Fleck is pretty illuminating this, because they want to almost take revenge on him as well within the movie. But if you look at Arthur Fleck, there's nothing political about him. Whereas in the past, these same people would try and make a sacrifice of MAGA people, Trump fans, or before that, it was white nationalists or rednecks or something. It was some kind of very specific stand-in for just a white guy, but they've just stopped that entirely. And their enemy is just the white incel, which is just a white man who's been beaten down. He's not even political. And that's what's interesting with Arthur Fleck. That's why people liked the first film, was because he was swept up in a political mood, but he's not political. He's not ideological. He's not like a rapist. He's not a sex offender. He's not a bad guy, but so much tragedy is visited upon him. And then he reacts to that. And then the second film was saying that, maybe he deserves it, or, but then also it's like, so your enemy is now just the white male consumer without any pretense of political affiliation or having done anything wrong. Like you actually are just like kicking and laughing at him that he's suicidal, like really nefarious, dark stuff. And I don't know who, I guess there is an audience for that, but maybe not, because no one saw Joker 2.
Well, I mean, so the movie is, given how that film ends, quite literally asking the question, well, what was he wearing?
Yeah. Wearing clown makeup. He was asking for it.
Anyway, that's probably better to move the conversation in a different direction from involuntary prison relationships.
Because Jay Byrne, he's so good at setting a tone that gets people like us very comfortable. We're kicking our shoes off. We're loosening our belts. I'm about to fire off with some probably very offensive stuff, and I don't want to get him in trouble, and I need to reel myself in.
I have developed a new skill as a content creator, which is turns out with just one simple plugin, you can censor any word you want. And if you have half a brain cell, you can figure out exactly what the person meant in context just by removing the back half of the word with a beep. And so basically now I just say whatever I want, edit it later.
He's like, call you a cream puff right now?
Yeah, 100%. I might not even remember to edit it.
Hey, geez, you're a real slack jaw.
Shit. Fuck you. We're living in the future, guys.
There's a few of the people who watch my show have made a bingo card, and it's not the center, but it's right next to it. The square on the Jay Burden bingo card says, quote, "I'll edit that out," in brackets. He does not edit this out.
I remember we were on one a while ago with Digital Archipelago, myself and Judas.
I remember.
And I didn't think we were doing that bad, but Gio had to take his scissor hands to that one and edit a lot out. We weren't demonetized. I forget. I think we did threaten a couple of people, but
well, who did you threaten, and what were they wearing?
I can't remember. All police officers.
I think knowing you, it was like all police officers or like every government official or something like that.
I mean, was it like a named government officials or just like in general?
Well, this is the thing. I think we've mastered the art of making unprosecutable, actionable threats.
Yeah. Okay, go on.
Because if you just make the threat so preposterous, it's not even possible to action it. Like, what are you even saying? Like, how am I going to cast a tornado at Kamala Harris? That doesn't make any fucking sense. How am I going to like shrink Joe Rogan down to the size of a wee egg and swallow him whole?
Yeah.
Can't do that. Or like I did this to fucking Richard Hanania on X just the other day. That one ended up having some legs. Where he said one of his fucking tweets, and I just said, one of these days I'm paraphrasing here. I'm gonna take you. I'm gonna put you into a canning machine. I'm gonna squeeze you into that can. I'm gonna mash you down into that can, and I'm gonna throw that can into a black school. I read that to the fucking jury.
Well, you also have the other layer of plausible deniability, which is like, and who are you to say that's a bad thing?
Yeah,
Right.
what's that?
Are you implying there's some negative association with what I just said?
It's a can drive for underprivileged kids. Come on.
I'm trying to feed black kids Hanania. What are you saying? He's not nutritious?
Oh, this Hanani is it's too good for you, eh? My father ate Hanani. It's good. Anyways.
The charges, lesbian officer.
Your Honor, it was pretty funny. I think that's the defense I'm hoping for, which is like, I mean, in context, Your Honor, it was clearly very amusing.
Yeah.
But I think
My greatest nightmare is having to, you think about how you're going to defend your bits or your sentences in front of a jury, but then they end up playing the ones that just bomb and you end up just sweating and seeing things like, no, you need 15 seconds before is the setup. It actually doesn't work if you just play that part. And you're trying to, I'm paraphrasing myself, but and then, then you're hoping you go to jail.
well, it's like the last episode I got just taken down off YouTube. It was for a really stupid reason, because I was making fun of the like boomer conspiratards who basically believe that, if you take a certain medical treatment, they're injecting a nanomachine into your blood to compel you to like worship at the altar of Bill Gates. And that was basically exactly the sentence I said. And they clipped that and said, clearly you're promoting vaccine misinformation. And I was like, well, yes, I am in general, but not in this specific instance.
It'd be funny if they classified that as anti-Bill Gates propaganda, because they hate Bill Gates. Mm-hmm. They fucking hate so many boomer conspiracy theories are about Bill Gates specifically. That has to be a bucket they have.
Okay, so I completely agree with you. And it led me to this place of thinking like, oh, well, Bill Gates is probably just a normal rich guy. But I have ascended to another level of thinking Bill Gates is some sort of lizard person or Satanist, some combination thereof. And it actually has to do with the amount of control he has over normie podcasting. So I have a person in my life who listens to, I can't remember what the podcast is called. It's called like Armchair Expert or something like that, with early 2000s boner comedy actor Dax Shepard, right? It's always in the like top
I know
5 to
who
10.
you're talking about. Yeah.
Remove Dax Shepard and just Armchair Expert with early 2000s boner comedy, and that's just every podcast.
Yeah,
that's
pretty much.
That's all
right?
podcasts.
You just described Blood Satellite. What the fuck?
The point is, right? So I'm just talking to this person, and this person doesn't really care about conspiracy theories or politics, right? Truly apolitical. And they were like, yeah, this podcast that I like, they had Bill Gates on, and it was super weird. And so I listened to this episode just out of curiosity, and these two people are like fawning over Bill Gates, just how much they like him, how cool they think he is. And then Bill Gates flies them on like a 3-month vacation to India.
It's a weird thing to happen. Like, that's not
I
a
know.
normal thing to happen.
And so these two podcasters who are consistently in the like top 10 podcasts in the world are basically his like paid entertainers. And they go around and record with him for like 3 months. And they report all of these like miraculous occurrences with like Bill Gates as a deity. They're like,
Yeah,
we all
which is
ate the same
which
food
is
stand and almost died, but Bill Gates was barely bothered. People worship the ground he walks on. He's
which to
practically
regular people sounds like something a corrupt king would do.
yes, literally. Yeah. It's like buying an artist and having him paint photos of you with like giant muscles, like killing a dragon or something. Just in the modern era.
You don't like me? You made fun of me? How about I pay you so much money you have to become my slave? How about I pay you so much money that you would, if you turned it down, you'd kill yourself. Now you have to be my slave. That's the amount of fucking power. And that's what, to your point, like to me, you don't even need conspiracy theories about Bill Gates, because I think the knowledge and data that we have about Bill Gates is enough. Because I remember stories even last year about, Bill Gates owns an insane amount of farmland. I mean, that's not good. Find me a person who thinks that's good.
The thing with him in the vaccines, and this is all written down, this was in like the mid-90s, he was talking about population control and about how vaccines would be used to save lives, but also would be used to reduce the population. And it's like, well, are you vaccinating against births? There's another word for that. Like
Yeah,
that's right in his documentation, So like you said, you don't have to have conspiracy theories. You just have to read the guy's notes.
Just read his fucking books where he says, I have a great idea. It's called population control, and I know how we can do it. We can do it with vaccines so no one gets upset. That's actually just the shit he says.
Yeah.
And he's sort of a transhumanist longevity movement guy.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, okay. Look, I thought everyone knew that. I thought that's why everyone's like, no one likes Bill Gates, which is why it's so funny.
This gives me a good idea how we can prove that we're not captured by these billionaires. We can actually fundraise within the group to get our own funding together so we can independently send Dax Shepard to India. I think we can do that on our own.
Much like the prospector in Toy Story 2. Just condemn him.
You would suck. Like, I watched that podcast with Dax Shepard, and he's one of these sort of mid-range actors where you remember him from stuff, but it's interesting hearing someone like Al Pacino talk about Hollywood stories. Al Pacino shows up with a story from Scarface you never heard before. Everyone wants to hear that. But you hear these like mid-range, like Luis Guzman's a bad example because he'd be interesting, but like Dax Shepard, he's like talking about The Craft, talking about, I was working on that fucking faggoty movie where I'm a police cop, just like you're not in. If you listen to him talk, you realize, oh, you shouldn't have a podcast. You're not interesting. And then what these guys always do when they're not interesting, they say, I'm a recovering addict. Of course, everyone is. Of course, what was it? Coke? What was it? Was it something real interesting? It was Coke, wasn't it? It was Coke and booze. You're fucking fascinating. You're in LA, you're an actor, and you got any Coke stories? No. So you're one of the other 10,000 actors who is hopelessly addicted to Coke and booze, but doesn't have any interesting stories. That's it. Wow. Get a fucking podcast.
Or get a cocaine addiction that's interesting, right? It's like you're sort of 0 for 2, right? You have the debuff, right? You have the crippling addiction, but you also don't have the positives, which is like something interesting happening to you.
Man, I was deep into PCP. Man, do you got any tales? No, nothing. I was like, a high performance PCP guy.
I was a highly functional PCP addict.
Yeah,
Just
like they didn't know.
microdosing.
Yeah, microdosing PCP be so funny.
It's the latest trend sweeping the finance scene. PCP just doing bath salts at the bathroom at Bear Stearns. And then one of the partners finally cracks and like eats his secretary's face or something.
All these guys who are like, I keep microdosing LSD and I don't have any good ideas and no one likes me still. So maybe I just a guy who's microdosing heroin and it just doesn't do anything good.
So remember how earlier we were talking about the reboot to American Psycho? I think we just came up with the premise.
It is like, honestly, with the AI technology we have right now, and I've seen some pretty good AI, not like 5 minutes, 6 minute short films. You can tell it's AI, but it's good enough. Just remake shot for shot the original American Psycho with an Indian guy. As I'm saying that, I bet half the audience is laughing. That's such a funny idea. Just play it completely straight, but it's an Indian guy in an Indian accent. That's enough. That's the funniest shit.
That's the like agree and amplify strategy, right? With just in regards to Hollywood diversity, where it's like, okay, well, we need to crank this up to 11.
If you look in my eyes, there's nothing there. You may shake my hand.
I'm just imagining like, a completely, AI, race swapped version where it's like, we have Saving Private Ryan, but it's with the cast of like, I don't know, Bad Boys or something, right? Where it's like, we can just take this to truly an absurd level.
Hey guys, I guess I have a bit. Take any movie and it's Indians.
What would be the most jarring movie to swap out the cast or Indians?
The Godfather 2.
I mean, isn't that just how Canada works now? No, it would be the Sopranos, right?
What about
because
The Road?
don't they run a garbage company?
The road is too much like India to me.
Oh, that's true. Actually, there's a lot of cannibalism and rape.
Just wandering down a road with a shopping cart.
Yep, fair.
Oh man, we could really set up base camp here and just name.
just spend the next 35 minutes thinking of funny movies to make the entire
Guys,
cast
if we don't get around to it, you guys at home, do your own podcast. Get some friends together. It ain't hard, and just start literally listing movies and say, "Hey, being John Malkovich, but it's Indians."
There you go. You don't even have to record it. Just bring snacks and you're made. So
Just bring snacks, hang out, and then just have a conversation with your friends.
I like the idea of like a reverse swapped like Darjeeling Limited, where instead of like a bunch of
that'd be
Silicon
good.
Valley tech bros on a train journey through India, it's a couple of like Bollywood stars going through like, I don't know, like rural Mississippi or something.
And there's a scene where Jason Schwartzman like fucks the woman in the train, but it's an indie guy just molesting a screaming woman.
Just a cattle car. Just like
Just going, "Oh baby," and she just easily fights him off.
well, that's like that old Ernest Hemingway line, right, from A Movable Feast, where he describes someone as having the face of an unsuccessful rapist, which might be the most just devastating put down in a book ever.
I saw this tweet. We're in the rape section here, folks. So I remember I saw this tweet. It was by this woman. It was a funny woman tweet.
What was she wearing?
But no, here's the thing. It's kind of related to that. She was saying like, I'm walking down the street and then there's a man following me and I'm about to cross the street. It's nighttime and I just breathe a sigh of relief when I realize that it's an Asian guy. And it's an Asian guy, like a Japanese guy responds is like, I don't feel good saying this, but we can rape. Like, yeah, no, we could do. I'd do that in a minute. Like, there's no good way through this one. We can. We have. We would, and we can. We. Let me. Jizz got 4 letters. Rape is 4 letters.
Exactly.
there we go.
Now we're cooking with gas.
And look, I've seen all those like weird Japanese paintings of like samurai and like octopus and stuff. So obviously there's a lot of repression. So what I'm saying is that
Japanese art, which is like the most unsexual horniness you've ever seen, right? Like it's like, yeah, I get that this is sex technically, but there's nothing sensual about this.
which again, you see similar with the Indians, and give them credit, they've got the whole thing on lockdown.
Yeah, your type of woman, let's say you're a young woman, a white woman, you're being raped by a fucking Japanese guy, and you're like, what is this? Am I in night school? Am I watching Rick and Morty? What is even happening here? I don't know what this is.
I have no way to land that. You've backed me into the worst corner possible.
You found yourself at the end of the knife point once again, Mr. Burden.
Yeah, I know. Normally I'm in the driver's seat. I'm supposed to be the one making my guests profoundly and deeply uncomfortable.
Can I say the funniest like Sam Hyde moment that I was just reminded of like today? And I just can't stop thinking about it. It was a clip from like an old for a while he was doing like interviews. Like there was a time when Sam Hyde was like trying out every type of content to see what would work. And there was like half a year where he decided to do like an interview show, and he would interview guests and stuff. And one of them, it was Kantbot, and it was just them walking down some like road in Flint, Michigan, just like a Fallout New Vegas type road. And then Kantbot's talking about like, oh, I'm going to give you guys, next level content about books. And Sam has like, for real, man, if I hear you guys talking about that stuff, talking about your books, I'll be like I'm dumb, man. I'll be like, you hear you're talking about the book. It's like, oh yeah, what's my favorite song? The ABCs. I just, the more I think about that, the more I'm laughing about it. Like it's, hey, yeah, what's my fucking favorite song? Like, Mary Had a Little Lamb. Motherfucker.
Well, like that mix of like extreme masculine aggressiveness and childishness is just really funny and incongruous. And there's another version of it which I absolutely despise, which is like the Reddit millennial blend of childish language and profanity, right? Where it's like you see this, and you mentioned, like Rick and Morty, but like if you've ever talked or like seen, like, I'm trying to think of examples. Actually, the best example is did you guys see the Kamala Harris ad reaching out to men? Where it was like the guy sitting on the pickup truck and they're all saying like, "I'm a man," and then kind of a statement after that. Did you guys see that?
I'm a man's man. I'm a man's man. Like, yeah, it was all the it turned out that they were all actors and like gay actors too.
Well, of course, it's Hollywood, right? Not everyone can be cool and have a cocaine addiction. Some of them,
because everything seemed wrong about them. Like, if you've known rural people, even in Canada, if you know any rural guys, redneck guys, like, these just don't have the vibe of the guys that I know. So what is this?
Well,
but
and
it's all the same thing. It's like,
yeah,
I'm a man's man. Like, I chew tobacco. I drive my truck. I wake up at 3:30 in the morning every day, and I praise Jesus, and I come home. But you know what? I heard that beautiful mulatto queen talking about how Hitler came back, and I voted Republican my entire life, but I'm going to vote for the brown lady this time. Like, just pretty much saying that because there's no policy to speak of.
But the reason I brought it up, and you're completely right, is that there's this moment, and it's the kind of millennial blending of childishness and profanity that drives me up the wall, right? And he's saying like, "I'm a man's man. I can deadlift 500 pounds," which, by the way, if you've ever weightlifted, the guy who said that did not deadlift 500 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you have to be a freak to do that, especially at like 6 foot tall, maybe 160 pounds. Immaterial. But
it's like a rich person talking about how much lettuce costs.
Yeah. They're like,
yeah,
oh,
I made sense. Like, what's it cost? Like fucking $75? Yeah, I fucking bench press like 450. Yeah, I did that. Like, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's kind of comedically out of touch. But the phrase that sticks in my mind, and I hate this phrase. Like, I want to find the person who wrote this, put them into a can, and give them to a black school.
It's worse if you donate it.
No, I'll sell it to them. I'll extort them for it. But,
oh no!
but he says, I deadlift 500 pounds and I braid the fuck out of my daughter's hair, which is just like, it's so embarrassing. It makes my skin crawl.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it is a millennial thing. I can't say that it's a Gen Z thing. I don't even know if it's a Gen X thing, even though I want to say it is. But I know what you're talking about, and you can probably find images of there was a proliferation of books that came out in like the 2010s, which is like, you're a real motherfucker, tips on how to own the workplace, or like fuck rule. It's just F''CK. And there was like dozens and dozens of these books because they thought there was this movement that said like the word fuck made it more passionate and legitimate. Mm-hmm. And it was just something that was commoditized, and it was fake. It's like a Reddit thing. The only thing I could use to describe it is it's Reddit talk. It's milquetoast dorks that think they can offset their entire personality with a few curse words because that's how you let the world know that you're an adult.
Right. Sorry, Judas.
No, I was just looking at the transcript here because I hadn't seen that ad. And there's a section where like a really fat, smooth guy says, "You think I'm afraid to fix a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast."
Does that sound like something you'd say, Judas?
That's a line. I mean, I wouldn't eat a carburetor. I mean, that's
a joke from Happy Gilmore.
Is it actually?
Yeah, where he's like, I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast. And
I get the I'll eat X for breakfast bit, but like, if you look at the guy, this is clearly not a Republican masculine guy. He has tiny, skinny hands. He's morbidly obese, like he'll be dead in 5 years type obese, and extremely smooth skin, pale for the fact that he's Indian. But they put a cowboy hat on him and sit him in the bed of an old Ford. And he says, "You think I'm afraid to fix a carburetor?" Like, buddy, you don't even know what a carburetor is.
If there's a man out there who has mastered the carburetor and he's a proper mechanic, a blue collar guy, when he says something like that, he will make an extremely inappropriate sexual joke to get his point across. Like he's like, yeah, man, I can fix a carburetor. I can make that carburetor fucking come.
There you
And
go.
then you're just like,
You should
okay,
have written the
okay.
ad.
And you're with your family.
Much like Tim Walz, right? Much like Tim Walz could do to that
Yeah.
carburetor.
Yeah.
This has maybe been the most, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here, the most semen-encrusted election in my entire political experience.
No. That would have been, judging by my knowledge of American history, that would have been 94, I think.
No, Dimes. Actually, you forget who you're talking to. I got called. I got. Can I just say this? I got shut the fuck down right now.
I kind of miss Bill Clinton. He was, people always said like, oh, Bill Clinton was the first black president. I think we haven't taken into account that he may have been the first Indian president.
What?
I like that everyone in America say, hey, he's the first black president. He could just say that because he played saxophone and fucked a big bitch. That's all he did.
The bar was low in the 90s. What can we say?
And everyone's like, yeah, I understand the reference and I agree with it. Every black person agreed with that.
Well, here's the question, right? There are three white people who are basically black people in American politics currently, right? We've mentioned Bill Clinton. We also have Hunter Biden, right? Loves
True.
crack, loves prostitutes, loves taking photos of himself with crack and prostitutes. And then you have Donald Trump, who has 5 kids from 3 moms, a felon, has been shot, and has worked at McDonald's. So what I'm saying is this is a very close race for a completely separate title, which is who is the head wigger of America.
Yeah, we're getting a black president one way or the other.
Who's the real black president? And it wasn't Barack Obama.
It certainly is not Kamala Harris.
Yeah, he's Indonesian. Everybody knows that.
An
He's a
Indonesian
Kenyan
gay
Sunni
man.
Muslim.
Yeah.
This is where my racism can get me into trouble, which is that, I understand when I hear about a black man who is smoking crack cocaine, I say throw him in prison for 7,500 years, right? As we all do, right? But I hear that there's a white man smoking crack in the middle of the day on camera. I say, you know what? That's the Faustian spirit.
Well, he's just microdosing. How else is he going to get?
Yeah.
The coke isn't working. The bath salts, that was a fad, but this man's smoking crack.
That's the first black mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford, who smoked crack and then died.
Literally, he's a great big fat man who I love him. I miss him.
Me too.
He's always yelling at people.
Canadian.
He's always on crack, and then he just fucking died.
Well, my favorite too is the slow rollout of that scandal, where he was just furiously denying it, and then a video
just
would come out,
red in the face,
him just smoking crack, and he'd be like, "All right, I smoked crack once, but only once."
Rob Ford sweating on camera, looking like he just smoked crack.
He's sweating. He's like, I really got to wrap this call up so I can smoke more crack.
And then, of course, me being like, the crack epidemic, they deserve every year that prison sentence. Then there's Rob Ford. I'm like, so what? Guys can't hang out?
Yeah, the guy can't relax after work.
You think he's earned? Who am I to judge? I understand that I'm a hypocrite. I'm old enough to not care. I stand by it. I think he should do it. I think every black person who smokes crack should be thrown into a firing squad out of a helicopter. How about that? And I'm not going to discuss it any further.
Well, I'm sort of this collection of my favorite mayors ever. Rob Ford, obviously all-time great mayor. Adams from New York, he's an all-time great, right? Some real top-tier corruption. But the best mayor in history is gone but not forgotten, Lori Lightfoot. Just the absolute homunculus.
Okay, can I just say this about Eric Adams? If he is the one I'm thinking of, he did the thing. I love every black guy who does this, every black guy who's caught embezzling money or cheating on his wife or doing some kind of criminal act, especially if they're a public official. they end up in front of the press. All the cameras go cha 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 cha, and they inevitably compare themselves to Jesus. And they say like, I've been taking a lot of heat. I've been the slings and arrows just like Christ did. Like they right away, no matter what it is, that's what Christ did. Lori Lightfoot is really just a mutant, and I think Tim Dillon, the comedian Tim Dillon, did the best coverage of Lori Lightfoot. But I mean, she was a perfect cocktail of, you know, no one likes her, and she's uppity and like mean to subordinates. And there was that scandal of hers where, I mean, this again, I'm going to not do it justice, but there's a scandal where she like left a negative review on a private limo company claiming that the driver did all this stuff. And then the company fired back and said, no, we have cameras. You were a piece of shit. And it's just like the most embarrassing mark against her. Like that's the type of person you really don't want running anything. That's the person like lies to get service workers in trouble for no reason, right? Like that's a true megalomaniacal type of person. I don't care how many nukes they dropped on, you know, anywhere, frankly. But if you're like needling a server, I'm like, you're probably just a piece of shit.
Well, my favorite minor Lori Lightfoot scandals were, one, what in the world is she wearing at any given occasion? Because it was always the most like cartoonish, like it looks like 50s Batman comic, like a goon costume.
She looks like Beetlejuice.
She would always take the opportunity, like literally any opportunity, to get like a weird superhero costume. So she had like a gun violence themed superhero costume, a COVID themed superhero costume. And it's just this like 4'8" goblin person in a costume surrounded by like normal adults who are all like, they all have to pretend that like this person is in charge and we need to do what she says.
No one's allowed to say anything about this, especially not white. If you're white, you can't say anything about this ever in your presence.
Well, I think that my favorite, and I think I might have been a discovery because I've never heard anyone talk about this, is that Lori Lightfoot, very close to the end of her tenure, realized she was deeply unpopular. I don't know who told her. I'm deeply upset about this, and decided, oh, I know the best way to reconnect with the youth. It's to start a TikTok. And so there are dozens and dozens and dozens of TikTok videos of a glassy-eyed, slack-jawed Lori Lightfoot dancing at like a sound stage to pop songs.
Okay, Lori Lightfoot looking like a bad AI prompt.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Here's the other thing. Just imagine you've never seen Lori Lightfoot and you hear the name Lori Lightfoot. The image you would conjure in your mind is a very elven-like, tall, slender white woman, right? The name Lord, it's an elegant name, isn't it? And then you see like drunk Beetlejuice, Gollum woman. That's whiplash right there, brother.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I always like to imagine, you know, you're at the Chicago World's Fair, right? You know, it's this great celebration of progress. And an inventor comes up and he's like, let me show you what the city will look like in 80 years. And you'd be like, oh, wow, I bet it's going to be great. You know, everything, the future looks bright. I can't wait to see it. And he pulls up the TV screen, you know, presses the button, and it's Lori Lightfoot dressed up as a human container of Lysol, warning school children about the dangers of COVID.
And just seeing her in the middle of Detroit and saying, oh, thank God, so we're living in the clouds then. That's what this means, right? Right? We're living in like Elysium world.
Have you rewatched Elysium?
I was going to, but I've lost all faith in what's that director? The director, you know, the guy who did District 9.
Yeah, that guy.
Neil Blomkamp. Like I really think he knocked it out of the. I mean, it makes me retroactively not like District 9 because I liked District 9 when it came out.
But there's been some stinkers since.
Yeah, so I'm like, maybe that wasn't good, or maybe the things that I liked about it, I just imagined or dreamed. He did this one thing that I liked. He took a break and he had this studio called Oates Studio.
Yeah.
He just produced these short films, like as proofs of concept for movies, hypothetically. but every single one of those was good. Every single one was like almost like a standalone Black Mirror vignette. And like, I don't know, it's just like the perfect length. I'm like, oh, you should just be a short film guy, maybe. You're cool with these concepts, but I think you struggle with the 3-act structure. Maybe you struggle with the characterization. I don't know. It's just something's not working. And I think he's kind of like Kevin Smith. I think he's just run out of fuel. Like he's that's not a name that's attached to excitement anymore. Like M. Night Shyamalan has kind of bounced back a few times against all odds, but he's in a nadir right now. He's on his way out, and he's going to have maybe another one in him.
Didn't Blomkamp is working on like a game? He just released like an extraction shooter?
He might.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't heard about it. So
the point is, I think he's like shimmying around trying to find ways to expand or move into something else, because it seems like, everything post District 9 is not doing well.
I want to give Chappie another chance. Like maybe I don't remember liking that. What are we sure? Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't that good.
Yeah, but he gets these big actors in them, and I don't know. Fuck, don't you hate seeing people get so many shots at life? You know what I mean?
Well, it just like continue to fail upwards. Like this might be sacrilege. I kind of feel that way about Zack Snyder. Right, which is that Zack Snyder has made a series of extremely expensive turds for like literally 10 years now, and longer than 10 years, practically 20 years. I mean, I happen to like Watchmen more than most people, but that was not successful.
Yeah, and nothing wrong with Watchmen. I mean, if you liked the graphic novel, it's pretty close. It didn't change much, and the stuff it changed, I was okay with it. It took out the big silly monster at the end, but it was fine. I think he's done with Rebel Moon. I think that was his big play, all his chips on the table, and everyone hates it. And
huge turd.
Yeah.
And
everything leading up to that was no good.
Here's the thing. I actually enjoy Stinker, right? Like I enjoy a movie that's just baffling, but like there's different types. Like to me, the best is extremely well-funded delusion. Right? Or like someone thinks they've created something great and is full, like all their chips on the table. They think it's amazing. This is art. Like, like honestly, like the last one I think that I saw in theaters that was like this was, I think it was like 2019. They had a Cats movie come out.
Oh yeah. That's like one of the all-time like landmark bad films where even like everyone who was in it denounces it.
Well, I watched it in theaters like the week it came out. I did a double header.
What is wrong with you?
Oh, this is even worse.
Week it came out?
I did a double header. We started watching that, left, after it wrapped up, and then went to see the like last Star Wars film, right? The sequel or whatever. And legitimately, I had way more fun watching Cats. Not because it was like good or even like particularly like interesting, but just because it was this like perfect crystallization of like, you have no idea. You have literally no idea.
It's a spectacle because it's you would call it remarkable because it is remarkable, and it's remarkable not in a good way, but there's so many boring movies that are made. There's so many lazy, low budget, fucking Blumhouse cash grabs. So many movies where it's like, well, we know if we X plus Y equals dollars. If we make it for 10, we're pretty sure we can make 12. So we'll make a profit. It doesn't need to be good. It just needs to have these elements and these things sell. It's like the romance novel market. It's just a fucking equation you're filling with content. But at least with Cats, it's such a sequence of misfires. It almost, you would think that at some point a cool, good thing would happen, and it doesn't. So you're like, damn, it's not even like a singular vision. It's just awful and everyone hates it. But that's better than the film Poker Face by Russell Crowe, who I believe directed it, wrote it, started it, and that's his thing. And I like Russell Crowe, but he's like, this is going to be my movie. I've been an actor long enough. How about I try my hand at filmmaking? And it's just really boring and not fun. He can't even recommend it. He's got his friends involved. It's got some good people in there. But it's just it's amateurish. Like it doesn't even feel like a completed film. but like I would rather something shit the bed in a
Well,
spectacular way.
Because at a certain point, and the reason I brought this up in response to Rebel Moon is I haven't seen Rebel Moon, but to me that seems just boring bad, right? Where it's like there doesn't seem to be enough there to be notable. You know, like if you've ever seen like I can only think of examples that no one has seen, like movies like I don't know, like Michael Bay Transformer type movies, right? Where it's like this is an expensive movie, it's not good, but there's no soul to it, right? There's nothing interesting and specific about it. It's basically like an off the rack product. Like, okay, that's technically bad, but there's nothing interesting to talk about. Whereas it's like someone's insane, you know, passion project, right? That they really like put it all in on, right? You know, they bet the farm on black. It's like, well, I don't know. There's something more interesting to talk about, maybe in kind of a meta sense. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling. But
No.
I'm getting at times.
I'll give you an example of one that works, and there's all these examples of even sort of new Hollywood auteurs building careers out this. Like Kevin Smith would be one. You know, people hate Kevin Smith, but
well, I mean, that's a good example. I actually,
but an even better
Tusk.
example is Tusk is pretty good. Red State's okay, but an even better example, and I just saw this one for the first time the other day, was Swingers by Jon Favreau. And this is the type of movie that, you know, here's a guy, Jon Favreau, same thing with Vince Vaughn, young guys can't get a job in Hollywood. No one wants to hire them. They're too weird. They don't fit the type. So he says, I'm going to pull together $25K, whatever it was. I'm going to make a movie. I'm going to write it, and I'm going to have all my friends in it. It's going to be about something that we know, which was living in Hollywood and not in the hills, but just kind of, you know, in the shitty part of LA, going to parties, trying to make it, trying to get laid, and just wheeling and dealing. And, you know, Vince Vaughn's perfect for that role, but there's so much energy and life and so many genuinely funny moments that come out of that movie. I don't know why it took me so long to see it, but I'm like, that's the exact inverse of what we're talking about, where it's like it's a singular vision, but it's so good. And you can only come from that person at that place at that time, because there's all these like early, like 90s references in there too. It just wouldn't work now. Like the idea of leaving someone a message on their answering machine is a big part of it, right? But you can't have that anymore. Anyway, now I'm rambling, but it really did turn into movie corner. I'm sorry, everybody.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually enjoy film quite a bit, but I hate talking about film on the internet because, and this is a bad reason to stop doing something you like, but the type of people, especially who have, shall we say, vaguely right-wing aligned politics who talk about movies, it is grim. Like anti-SJW movie reviews, I would rather be sent to India, Siberia, and or Japan to be put in a toy museum for the rest of my life than watch those videos.
Yeah, like I'm just watching this to tell you how woke it is, or tell you, or sometimes interpret it incorrectly on how subversive it is. But when I talk about films, and I think you do this as well, I talk about the things I like because I like film. And, you know, that's nerdy. I get it. You know, I should be out digging a ditch. I should be out fighting for this or that. But I'm like, I like movies and I like talking about them. And I spend a lot of time thinking about it, and maybe I shouldn't, but I do, versus, you know, I'm just going to describe to you a new front in the culture war, which is designed to keep you in some kind of content plantation. Like give me money to tell you how media is doomed. Like that's such a pathetic transaction.
Well, okay. So that's actually something that I want to address. Right. So I do think that media is worth talking about, because the refrain you'll hear from the kind of like leftoids, right, is, you know, all art is political. And, you know, as in many cases, they're both completely right and completely wrong, you know, because obviously there's a value system enshrined in a work of art. But also the idea that, like, you know, Lord of the Rings is secretly about like queer rebellion is probably not true. But to me, I'm really interested in media analysis because it sort of gives you like a negative, right? It gives you the reverse image of, you know, a thinker and a culture, right? But kind of what's buried in their media. Like one of the things that I've been talking about with a mutual friend of ours, right, is the kind of approved target list of the regime, right? Who are the people that you are completely allowed to say whatever you want? You know, you can use them as the villains in your horror movies. You know, you can butcher them without any kind of sense of guilt, right? Obviously, the easiest example to hand is the mid-century Germans, right? They're, you know, cannon fodder, but also, right, like there are others that are a little bit more indirect, right? So like the waspy finance guy, right? That's a classic like bad guy in a movie.
That would be the number one that jumps to mind. I'll give you a couple examples if you don't mind. There is a very, I'm going to call it recent, I'm not sure if it is, but I've noticed it more recently, a subgenre of films like what was it? The Cruella de Vil movie or Wicked, where we're going to take a female villain and we're going to turn it on her head to show that she wasn't a villain the entire time. She was the victim. We'll give her backstory. She was just misunderstood or driven towards that nature. But who's the villain in that story? 10 times out of 10, it's like a rich white guy. So you can't even have a classic female villain. You can't have fucking Ursula from The Little Mermaid. If you tell, I bet you coming down the pike, there's an Ursula origin story and the villain's going to be her domineering like husband or something. And the story's going to be about how she eats all the burgers in the ocean and emancipates herself. You know what I mean? Or like that Birds of Prey movie with Harley Quinn. Like her story has to be about how she was actually the victim of the Joker, you know, like, but that's an entire subgenre in itself where the only permissible villain, you can't even have a female villain without being a hero. The only one you're allowed to just have as a villain is a white guy, specifically a wealthy white guy.
Do you think women will kill movies?
No. I mean, Zack Snyder's doing a good job. No, I mean, that's an interesting question. What do you mean by kill movies?
Well, I'll let you into a secret. I didn't really think about that. I just said it. But you were to put it.
I think women are they very easily corral themselves into subgenres where they mostly spend their time. So, like with podcasts, most women just spend their time in the true crime genre. They're not evenly dispersed, I don't think, not like men are. Within fiction, it's like romance fiction, a little bit of fantasy, but like they're really conglomerate. It's the bell curve thing, you know, like they're in the middle, they're in one space. So in film, their thing is like true crime serial killer stuff or very, very, very low budget reality shows right now. Just shockingly low budget reality shows on Netflix. That's what they're mostly watching. So if the question is, are we still going to see tiny, you know, small art house films? Yeah, I think you're going to still see that. I mean, you still see that now when people say movies are doomed. There's still great films being released. I know people don't want to believe it. You got to search for them. But here's the thing. You always had to search for it. A lot of it, except for a few years where it's like, oh my God, look, Platoon and Terminator 2 and fucking Predator were all came out the same week or something crazy like that. That's very rare. Most movies suck, even in the 70s. I love movies from the 70s too. You haven't seen most of the movies that came out in the 70s. There's a lot of terrible, boring, low effort schlock that came out then too.
Even a lot of the ones that we praise as being like classic cinema, if you just you take the nostalgia out of it, a lot of the time it's the messaging was kind of powerful, but as a film they're atrocious. Like the guys asked me to watch Convoy the other day, and I like it. It's a great movie, but it's not a great movie. It's a fucking awful movie. It's just great because like, oh man, I'm rooting for the guy and I enjoyed watching it. But like, if I'm going to evaluate this as a film, how is the directing? Bad. How is the acting? Terrible. How is the casting? So, mostly bad. Like, it's not good. It's not even good.
I felt the same thing I saw. Deliverance.
Yeah.
I saw
Deliverance. I love Deliverance, but it's not good. You know what I mean?
There's the scene where he climbs to the top of the cliff, and it's very clearly, they do this thing called day for night, where you film during the day, but you fuck with it in post-production with the colors and the shade to make it look like it's night. And a way to tell that if you're watching movies, if it's at night, but you still see them having a shadow. You wouldn't notice unless you're looking for it, but
Like Werner Herzog wouldn't have done that. Werner Herzog would have fucking taped that guy to the cliff for 72 hours until he could get the fucking shot.
But what I liked about Deliverance was it was probably the most egregiously obvious day for night scene I've ever seen, because it didn't even look like night. It just looked like dark blue. It just looked like it was a dim day thing, but it looked surreal. It looked like it was on an alien world. So it's bad. It's technically bad, but you like it because you've never seen anything like that. And a lot of that movie was like that. I'm like, this isn't very good. I like it. Then they talk about, the opening scene, there's like a banjo contest between that. The boring banjos is famous. I'm like, that's interesting. This scene's fucking stupid though. Like this scene is a waste of time. If you're just talking about a film structure, this is just a detour that it's wasting my time. But it's classic. It's classic. Of course, I get it. That's classic, but it's dumb. Like a lot of the movies dumb, but it's, who doesn't love Deliverance, right? Maybe some people are pissed off at me saying that, but Judas started it, so blame him.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much the whole reason I brought Judas on here, is just to shift all moral blame for everything said onto him.
I'm the goat.
Exactly.
So he can slip on a banana peel and land on the grenade of my bad opinion.
And then give him to an impoverished black school. Is that how it goes?
The idea, of course, being that black children are cannibals.
Thank you for explicitly spelling it out. I'm not sure if I would have gotten it. All right, guys.
The whole Hanani thing was like, I'm throwing a black school. Like, you guys autocomplete what you think that means. I'm not even saying anything. Maybe they just say, damn.
All right, gents, we are fast approaching time. This was a ton of fun. But if people want to find more of your work, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, I'll tell you what you do. You check out bloodsatellite.ca, as you can find all of the episodes of Blood Satellite. Go to vanguardistjournal.substack.com. That's where we have our written work, our published work. And go to our merchandise store, goodsuffer.com, where you can also find a very exciting and relevant and well-made t-shirt for the Beaver Gang, Jay Burden. We've partnered with Jay Burden, and we sell Jay Burden's shirt there. And leave a message in the comments. How often does Jay Burden mention this amazing piece of merchandise that he gets 100% of the profits from? If you want to buy this shirt, it all goes to Jay. If you are a member of Beaver Gang, you can now shout it loud, shout it proud in public.
You're telling me for the first time. I have never heard of this shirt.
The U is a V, by the way. Good suffer, and the U is a V. Just so.
Also, I have
go and buy Jay's shirt.
I also have the domain for regulargoodsuffer.com too.
Just to direct it.
Let me check. Hold on.
Well, those links will be down in the description. Again, guys, this was a ton of fun. Thanks for coming out. As far as my stuff, the Jay Burden Show is available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Obviously, buy the shirt. Also, check out our sponsor, Axios Remote Fitness and Coaching. And everyone at home, keep your head up. Well, I can't last forever. Good night.